Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me here today in this live webinar from the hill country of North San Antonio. Today's subject is treating naturally high blood fat conditions. In fact, that was the original title, and then a few people asked me what I meant by high blood fat conditions. So I altered the title and I called it Treating Cholesterol and Fatty Liver. But in fact, from the Ayurvedic perspective, we are treating fat in the blood and the liver. Fat, of course, is dense, heavy, and is represented in Ayurveda by kapha, which is thick, dense, heavy, and a solid type of substances. So it's kapha, fat is kapha. In this case, we're talking about in your blood and including your liver, which is called rakta datsu. So we got fat, or kapha in this case, kapha gati, rakta vayusotra. So basically, from the Ayurvedic perspective, this means fat in the blood is what we're treating. Our kapha in the blood is high cholesterol and fatty liver. Now, there's other type of liver conditions that we must be aware of that we're not going to be discussing today. You can have cirrhosis of the liver, you can have alcoholic liver, and you can have other, could have hepatitis and other infections of the liver. So these are separate subjects. I mean, the liver can have other complications, but what we're talking about today is a fatty liver and high cholesterol, which is measured in the blood. Now, of course, we know those are medical terms. High cholesterol usually means a combination of high LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. And I know nowadays we do separate the good fat from the bad fat, the LDL, the low density lipoproteins. These are the bad fat because they can clog and can in your arteries. Well, the HDL, the good fat, tends to be used by the system more and metabolized and doesn't clog your arteries. And of course, what's really important here is not clogging your arteries, because this can lead to blood clots and ultimately stroke and heart attack. So we're talking about lowering the unhealthy fat in your blood and keeping your blood thin to avoid this type of blood clotting. It's very interesting, though, if you think about it, why children don't generally have high cholesterol, and that's because of the condition of their liver. And this, sometimes we get confused and we think in terms of, high cholesterol being like some disease. Now, of course, as we mentioned, blood clots are very dangerous. However, we can't see it as a disease when we have excess fat in the liver. This is the results of a poor functioning liver, which is why children, despite eating junk foods, fried foods, and all of this excess animal protein, generally won't get a fat in the blood, which is what we're going to call it from now on, in large amounts, because their liver is still working well. So it's a little confusing when we think, I have excess, fat or LDL or triglycerides. But what we're really talking about is poor diet and poor liver function, the combination of the two. It's the poor liver function ultimately that leads to this condition, because people who are younger tend not to have it because their liver is in better condition. And those people who've maybe had a lot of alcohol or smoking or other things that damage their liver are more susceptible to this condition, even if they have good dietary habits. So we can see sometimes people with good dietary habits, maybe for the last few years, maybe not their whole life, and then they still have this fatty condition. That can be just to their poor liver function, which can be a result of other reasons. So we're really talking about treating your liver. The goal, of course, we want is thinner blood that's not clotting to avoid strokes and heart attacks. That's the goal. But what we really treat is the liver, because it's the liver's job to manage the lipid levels or the fat levels in our blood. So what we're really saying is our Not that our fat's too high in our blood. We're saying our liver is having difficulty time managing it. So if we support the liver in two ways, one, give it less work to do by improving the diet and not having fatty foods, which we're going to cover, and two, taking herbal remedies that can help improve the liver function. It's only herbs that can help the liver, because any type of medication, pharmaceutical in any nature, is actually somewhat damaging to your liver and your kidneys. So there is no medical treatment, because medicine in general is a burden at minimum for your liver and your kidneys. But herbs have the capacity to restore your liver, improve its liver function, thin the bile, clear the gallbladder, thin your blood, all of the above. So now we have a better understanding of what we're discussing. Let's talk about the major causes. We just said diet and poor liver function. And we know there's many things that can lead to poor liver function: alcohol, smoking, pharmaceutical drugs, recreational drugs, etc. When it comes to diet, most of us know the answer, and that is red meat, fried food, saturated fats, trans fats, which of course means all fast food. So we could say, I mean, if you eat enough fast food, you're going to end up with high blood lipids in the blood, and you're burdening your liver for years and years and years until this takes place. So by the time you have the condition of high cholesterol or fatty liver, you've already burdened your liver for maybe decades until it reached this state where it could no longer manage these high levels of undigestible fat, we could say. It's from Ayurvedic perspective, the liver has a digestive system that it breaks down into fat. And we know this, bile breaks down fat into fatty acids, and we're able to absorb it. So from the Ayurvedic perspective, where the liver, Batu Agni, is unable to digest the fat. And then it becomes what we call in Ayurveda undigested fat, which is a type of toxin at this point. It's a type of ama. So it's undigested fat that's now pumping through your blood. So again, we have to improve the digestion of the liver. And often poor liver function, or poor digestive function, I should say in this case, is happening at the same time as poor digestion. Now, it's a big subject on what is digestion. Most people think their digestion is just fine, but gas, bloating, constipation, even just low appetite, no hunger, not hungry until 3 o'clock. These are all signs of poor or weak digestion. So even acid reflux, heartburn, GERD, excess hunger, any imbalance in the digestive system generally will be reflected in an imbalance in the liver's ability to break down fat, carbohydrates, and protein. And we're talking about the digestion of fat, which mostly comes from the bile that's produced by the liver, which emulsifies the fat, breaks it down into fatty acids so we can absorb it. So another cause, of course, is gallbladder congestion. If you're not producing enough bile, you're not going to be able to emulsify and break down your fat. So gallbladder congestion, which can be a result of gallstones, thick bile, or liver function. But generally, when we treat the liver, we treat in the gallbladder as well. So when we're treating this type of conditions of fat in the blood, in the liver, we're treating the liver, we're treating the gallbladder, we're thinning the blood, all in one shot with these herbs. So other things we want to avoid if you have this condition of high unhealthy fat in your blood is all fast foods, and even egg yolks, fried foods, coconut oil, tropical oils, should be avoided. Sunflower oil is better, sesame oil is better, olive oil is better. It would depend on the individual, but tropical oils, particularly coconut oil, is counterindicated. And of course, another cause is low activity, not exercising enough, not having enough physical exercise to, we could say burn off the fat and keep the metabolism going. And this is also a contributing factor. And of course, excess weight, obesity or excess weight, there's excess metadots or excess fat tissue in the body. And this also accompanies a lot of times fatty liver and high blood fat. So losing weight, be more active, and cutting out all these fatty fried foods and red meat and dairy. It doesn't mean that you have to be radical. It depends on your condition. If your cholesterol numbers are a little high, you don't need to be radical. You could still probably have some fish, some ghee. Ghee is healthier than butter, particularly in this case. Maybe even could still have some cheese if the numbers are only a little high. But if the numbers are very high and you're also obese, then you're going to have to be more stringent. No cheese whatsoever, no dairy whatsoever, and maybe even no meat at all, not even chicken. Particularly dark chicken meat is fattier than white chicken meat. And even salmon is fattier than, say, tilapia. So I really don't give one diet to every person. If the cholesterol numbers are just a little high, and the person isn't overweight, you may just want to reduce out, of course, no fast foods, fried foods, and red meat. But of course, if the person's obese with fatty liver and very high cholesterol numbers, then they might as well just become vegetarian and leave out almost all dairy and use mostly only sunflower oil. Sunflower oil is the preferred oil for high fat conditions. And then, of course, the person should be losing weight and being more active. So it's really a quite straightforward diet. You don't need I encourage you not to be too radical and too extreme. People you can't do a no fat diet. That's never a good idea. You just got to do healthy fats. If you do a no fat diet, or just think you're going to get enough fat from eating a few nuts and an avocado every once in a while, then you can start to have nutritional problems of having low fat in the diet. This can create memory issues, dry skin issues, dry stool, and even cognitive problems, neurological problems by depleting your body of healthy fats. So the idea isn't to stop fats, because we know in nutritional science, from a macronutritional point of view, we need protein, fat, carbohydrates, and fiber. So you can't just eliminate all fat and starve your body of fat. No, it's good fats what you need to have. You still have to have good fats. It could be olive oil or sunflower oil, or would be the two best, or maybe sesame oil. Depends on the individual and the condition. But the healthy fats, and of course some avocado oil would be okay too, but not coconut oil. So you just want to get rid of the bad fats, do good fats depending on the severity of your condition, and improve your digestion. Don't be snacking all day on nuts. They're fatty and ruining your digestion. And have more vegetables and fruit, and don't be scared of having whole grains, and avoid processed food at all costs, and definitely fast food at all costs. That's probably the biggest source of this condition, is just fast food. So generally you have to make these dietary changes, be a little more active, and then you can take herbal substances which help. We have, of course, many herbs here. We'll first look at the Western herbs. We have a few herbs here that we have under Western herbs. There's milk thistle, dandelion, yellow dock, and burdock root. And sarsaparilla is also in there, even though we use it for skin. But the premier herb that you want to really have is, of course, dandelion root. That's organic, raw dandelion root. The second best, or supportive, would be a burdock root. And then this can be combined with milk thistle. Milk thistle helps keep the bile clear. And then you can have a tea such as this one here and drink it during the day. And it improves bile flow, detoxifies the liver. And as you can see, dandelion root, burdock root, melt thistle root, licorice, coriander seed, turmeric, and cardamom seed. Very effective for minor cases and very supportive of the liver. That would be provided in most cases. And then in Ayurveda, there's of course many herbs for the liver. The premier herb being Bumamalaki, Bringraj, Kukti, also very powerful in reducing down blood fat, Kasni and Manjistha. Kasni is more suitable for both kidney and liver, and Manjistha is very good for skin conditions. The premier herb, though, without a doubt, is Bumamalaki, which again we have in organic form. And Kukti too, which is very bitter, and the price of Kukti has increased. So we have a formula here. This one, we have many liver formulas, but this one is for kapha. And as you can see, it's called liver tonic kapha. Let's get that to focus there. Okay, come on, baby. And it clears. Boy, well, I'll have to read it to you. Well, that's it. See, because we're talking kapha condition, we have liver tonics for pitta, liver tonics for vata. This decongests the liver, cleanses the blood, and improves metabolism. Now, it's very important. These liver herbs are generally taken before a meal, not after a meal, because you're stimulating the liver and helping to helping it to function. You're really stimulating the liver right before you eat. So you just take small doses of these liver herbs, about 5 minutes before the meal, 10, or right before the meal, or at the beginning of the meal. Now we also have a formula, cholesterol lowering formula. Cholesterol lowering formula here. Let's see if we get that. I think it's focusing on me there. Okay, well, he's not focusing too good today, but I'll read it off for you. Deeply cleanses, lowers blood fat, and improves circulation. And here we have Gugulu. Gugulu is a resin. Arjuna, which is the premier herb for a cardiovascular system. Bumamalaki, which I mentioned here. Kukti, which I mentioned here. And Moringa, which is kind of popular. Now, of course, people don't really know how to use moringa. They're just having it all the time. And it's a very hot herb. And we only use it in a couple formulas, but the one we do use it in is in cholesterol lowering formula. It's not even in our liver formula because it's very hot and very effective at high fat conditions. And we also combine a lot of times with this liver tabs. These are very popular in India. This is a pre-made little tablets there, and they're called Arganovati. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, but detoxes the liver and gallbladder, cleans the GI tract, improves most skin conditions, including eczema, psoriasis, itching, and acne, and can help with blood pressure as well and reducing cholesterol. So these tabs, they have 12 herbs in it, and manjistha, kukti are just some of the herbs, but they also have a little basma in there, low basma, which is iron, which also helps improve metabolism and weight loss. And that's why they're small, because you don't need much of them because they have the basma or natural iron in it. So these are not for every case. You know, you have to pick and choose. Of course, once a person's got high blood pressure, we have a few substances there. You know, we have our, blood pressure tonics for the heart. There we go. Well, it's not focusing today. Now this improves cardiovascular function and controls blood pressure, improves circulation. And Arjuna, of course, is the key herb, and other herbs, which we're really not covering here today, that have to do with circulation and calming the heart muscles. And we have a few different high blood pressure formula is another one here called Kapha one. And this one is more suitable for somebody with cholesterol and blockage in the arteries and swelling as well. So it's improved cardiovascular function and controls blood pressure, improves circulation, and reduces swelling. And this one, of course, has more guggulu, ginger, pepper, backed by, of course, Arjuna and Punarnarava and Sarpgandha, which is one of the most famous herbs for lowering blood pressure. So we have a couple choices there. So in any case, we have 4 or 5 different liver formulas. But if a person's overweight, heavy, and has high cholesterol, generally we'll choose the Kapha one. If there's more heat and burning sensation in the person with skin problems, we'll use a Pitta one that's more cooling. If the person's weak and depleted and underweight, we use a different liver formula called Vata, because liver herbs tend to be very bitter. And like I said, they have to be taken before the meal. And bitter, we know, increases Vata. So if a person's thin, underweight, and they have high Vata condition, depleted, anxiety, neurological issues, we can't give them so many bitters, which is the danger in self-treatment in this particular case, because many people do their research and they realize, oh, these bitter herbs help lower my cholesterol, my blood fat, and improve my liver function. But if they are Vata by nature, thin, light, cold, dry, or with nerve issues, then these bitter herbs can make all of these conditions worse. So we have a special formula called liver tonic for Vata, and it helps improve the liver, but it doesn't have strong bitter taste. And same for our Pitta formula. You know, it doesn't have the hot heating herbs like ginger, black pepper, even too much turmeric can be hot. Moringa is very hot. So if a person's hot, sweaty, and burning, has rashes, hot flashes, red skin, rosacea, or, you know, psoriasis, it's burning, you can't give them these hot liver herbs that we're looking at here today. You have to give them a cooling liver herbs. Now, most liver herbs are bitter and sweet, but we add a lot of times for high fat conditions, particularly this cholesterol formula. We add, there's a cholesterol formula. We add to it, these are Trica-2, moringa, and that are both very hot. Trica-2 is made of ginger, black pepper, and long pepper. So it's very hot, spicy. So we can't use that for everyone. And again, this one, liver detox tabs, it's got iron in it. So we can't use that for everyone either. So that's the whole trick, is picking the right ones and changing the diet. And the liver tea is more supplemental. The powders or churnas are more powerful, more effective, because when you're doing the tea, you're just doing a decoction and you're drinking it between the meals. So somebody would just concerned about their liver would do very well with just the liver tea, little blockage in the gallbladder. Now we also have gallbladder formulas if there is gallbladder pain. And when there's blockage in gallbladder, that can also lead to high fat conditions. So identifying the causes is very important. Changing the diet is essential, but you don't want to be too radical and go totally fat-free. And then picking the right herbal formulas based on you individually, not just what you read online, or there's always the risk that you create other health issues. But I will say in conclusion that this condition of having high blood fat is very treatable through diet and exercise. So eventually, if you change your diet 6 months or 1 year, you'd start to see your cholesterol numbers coming down, and sometimes very quickly. But the herbs expedite it. They stimulate the liver, clear the gallbladder, have a capacity to thin the blood. If somebody's already have a history of blood clots or stroke or heart attack, then maybe right from day one, we want to give another formula we have, which we would mix with these, and that is a blood thinning formula. And if they have blood pressure, they would maybe be taking the liver herbs plus the blood pressure herbs. So if they had high blood pressure plus had a recent stroke and high cholesterol, they could be taking liver herbs before the meal, and after the meal, they could be having blood pressure herbs and blood thinning herbs, plus beyond the diet. And of course, there's other foods and activities that increase your blood pressure, like coffee, chocolate, stress. So, it's really case by case. Most people don't just have one isolated problem where they just have high, lipid levels in the blood and nothing else. There's usually other issues involved: poor digestion, poor elimination, stress, high blood pressure, gallbladder congestion. So, most people have a little package of health problems. So, you have to address people holistically, address yourself holistically. Don't just read that, one herb is going to, lower your blood fat. There's no such thing. Or just little radical change in your diet is going to do it. If you don't know the cause, then you have to be very careful in treating yourself or someone else. If you're not aware really what caused it, then you're just treating blindly. You have to treat accurately. You have to know what you're trying to treat. Are we treating the gallbladder? Are we treating the circulation? Are we treating the liver? Are we working also lowering stress levels? Or what was the cause? How much of it was due to diet? How much was due to poor liver function? What caused the liver to not function properly? All this information must be available to be able to choose not only the right diet, but the right herbal remedies. And that, of course, is my profession, choosing the right, making these products. These are all products are made by me, and they're based on Ayurvedic formulas and traditional Ayurvedic remedies. And most Ayurvedic doctors in India were using the same herbs and similar formulas, because this condition is easily treated by an experienced herbalist, particularly an Ayurvedic herbalist, if you're changing the diet as well. To think you could only take the herbs and not make dietary changes is not correct. To only make dietary changes and not take any herbs would be sufficient in early cases, and where numbers are not too high and there's no history of stroke or heart attack. Otherwise, you have to be more careful and treat very quickly, because the herbs will expedite the treatment. They will improve the liver function quickly. They will thin the blood out quickly. They can lower the blood pressure quickly. So if it's a serious matter, you need the herbs. And of course, I never encourage anybody to stop their medication. They should, the medication could be keeping them alive. We're not talking about abandoning medication here. We're talking about knowing how to treat yourself to avoid having to take medication. So I hope this gives you hope. I hope this helps you understand that it's a very treatable condition. And the first thing you got to do is change your diet as much as you can. Even if you do an appointment with me, change your diet as much as you can first. Get off of the fast food before you give me a call. And then once you've already changed the diet, then that's the best time to contact me, because you can do what you can on your own by making the dietary changes that you think are necessary, becoming more physically active. And then when you do an appointment with me, you're already prepped, you're already making progress, and that we can then refine the diet and help you with other tips, home remedies, and then provide the herbal remedies, which you may have to take for a few months to resolve the condition once and for all. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, I wish you the best of health